Well, it all started with the interest that I saw at Saginaw Products of a universal style gearbox, because we were selling the ball screws, standard roll thread ball screw assemblies of General Motors. We had the Western United States to sell that for GM when I worked for Saginaw Products. Well, that was just a product I really liked. And then I got onto the Minuteman program. There were 1,000 systems, and I thought, wow, build 1,000 of those, which we did.
Yeah.
But that whole thing started my interest in a gear drive of a recirculating ball bearing screw assembly or an Acme thread, whichever you want. And that was an interest that I had. And I had an idea for a gearbox that would have a flat plate or a trunnion mount or a slab mount. That there were no gearboxes that were universal.
Now that's the gearbox you got a patent on, right?
Yeah. So that
was the universal
that
gearbox.
was the drive to go to Washington, D.C. and get a patent for that. And I can't tell you whether I was working for Saginaw at the time or I was working for Vic at the time. It was just, that was in my mind, and nobody seemed to have an interest in it but me. And Nancy and I went back to Washington, and we actually got that patent. Mike had befriended Vic Edelbrock as they went water skiing in Lake Arrowhead. And evidently Vic was very, very busy, and he was at that time, and he needed a sales manager. So that was just perfect for me. I liked hot rods and cars and all that stuff. So he said, come on over and talk to me. I went over and talked to him. I had a suit on and talked, and we instantly agreed and shook hands, stood up, and I was walking out. He says, hey, Smith. I turned around, I said, yeah, Vic, and he says, that's the last time I want to see that suit in this place of business. I thought that was precious. That's the last time I want to see that suit in this place of business. Worked for Vic Edelbrock for at least 7 or 8 years. Yeah. But at that point, I still had the interest in the universal type gearbox.
So then you got together with Bill Russell to actually make the
universal
box,
when I was working for Vic right at the end, and I don't know why, but something came up and it rekindled my interest in the gearbox thing. And Bill Russell was the only guy around who was really mechanical, like Ephraim. He was my Ephraim.
Yeah, he wasn't at Edelbrock, right?
No, he was running the body shop at Pasadena Chrysler, and I don't know how I teased him to come over.
Yeah.
It was the Hollenbeck building,
right? That
Mrs. Hollenbeck, what a name! She was the original Hollenbeck family. She was building the racks for fire hoses that hang on the wall. That's what they did in this little 15th Street building. Well, she was kind of at the tail end of that. Tried to work at a Cadillac, put on her smock and hammer out all these parts. So she wanted to quit, and I needed a building. And somehow we, with the help of Bob Berg, got together. But I made a comment to him, hey, all I need is one big order, and I can get my universal gearbox thing started. And he says, I got a guy's name, and I want you to contact him. And that was Bob Forehand at Pierce Corporation.
Right.
So I called up Bob and I said, hey, I'm looking for a gearbox business. And he said, come on up. And he said, there, see that gearbox? He says, you make me a gearbox that every piece will interface with the pieces in this gearbox, and I will buy all that you can make. And I thought, wow, nobody ever loved me that much. Gearboxes were going through their, it was the beginning, but it's always been cyclical. You could see 8 cycles in it now. And it was at the bottom of one of those cycles and was coming up the other side, and nobody could build enough gearboxes. Durst was the only one in the business, nobody else. So we slipped in and picked a little piece out of it, and that's how we started in the Northwest. I'd work all day at Edelbrock, and then I'd come and spend 4 or 5 hours turning up cases or covers with that big lathe. So we just built a few of enough to get it going. Forehand put them on as pivots, and they ran fine. And that was it at that point. It was just a case of how many we could make. And we didn't have any money because there wasn't any money then. Nobody had any money. But it was a big decision to leave. And the funny story about it that I still treasure is Vic loved to fly his Baron. And being the sales manager, and we'd have a big show, car show or something, he'd fly me to Dallas or something like that. And it was just awesome to just sit beside him and watch him fly that airplane, because you knew exactly what he was doing, and you knew everything was in the books. And if he had to have a coordinate or something like that, he'd say, pull that black book out and put it in your lap. And he'd sit there and tell me how to do it. And when I was too slow doing it, he'd reach over and go, "Tah, tah, tah, tah." And you're flying, you're in the air. When we were flying back, we flew over western New Mexico. And here are these center pivot rings on the ground. And I said, hey Vic, you know I'm interested in gear drives for those center pivot units down there. Do you want to get in that business? I could get you in right now. He says, Smith, I'm so busy with what I'm doing, you know, I couldn't add something else to it. I gotta leave you, I gotta do this. And he says, how many have you sold? How much do they cost? How much do you sell them for? And right in the line, just like that, boom, 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 boom. He says, you're ready. Go get them.
Really?
And that was, in my mind,
Great.
I will never forget the man, because he didn't want to lose me. And we just grew like crazy in the 7 years that I was there. Well, Ante Chung was a Korean manufacturer. He was a manufacturer who owned a company called Chanel Products. And he was looking for more business for his factory. That's the finest part of the whole story. When I went to the show, I was on a DC-9 that has 2 seats in the rear, and I was in one, and there was 1 seat left over. And they stopped in San Francisco, and the gal says, this will be a short stop, we're just picking up 1 customer, and that was Ante Chung, who we picked up. He sat next to me, and by the time we gone from San Francisco to Portland, he had the whole story. Wow. I just got rid of a business that was all castings. You want to do it? And I told him all about it. He says, I'll see you Thursday. That's where the whole thing started.
You talk about Providence, one empty airline seat
One seat.
next to you.
Yeah, and the guy was born in 1931, same as me. He was born the 18th of May, same as me.
No kidding.
Really?
And Chanel is Faith First Foundry. So I was very fortunate. I got a Christian Oriental who was an honest guy. So the Lord looked over that, definitely.
Rotate over this way. Potatoes,